Welcome to my weekly review. All these charts are going to be courtesy of MarketSmith, and this is just for amusement only. It's not financial advice, so do your own due diligence. You're responsible for your own actions, people. Anyway, you're looking at a daily chart of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and you can see that every time it gets to this point here above the 200, which it is. This is a leading index, by the way, because it's above all moving averages here. But every time it has gotten to this point, it just sells off, right? So we're conditioned like Pavlov's dogs. Here we are back again at the 200. It's going to sell off, right? Well, we don't know. One of these times it's going to rip right through and this bear market's going to be over. Is it this time? I don't know. Jay Powell's going to have something to say about that this week, and we'll see how the market responds. But this is the pond I want to fish in because those are the lead. That's the leading index, and those 30 stocks, there's some big winners in there. This is the Russell 2000. Again, this is above the 50, but a little bit below the 200 simple moving average. So it's not as strong as the Dow. There you can see it's 2.1% below the 200. So maybe this time it rallies right through it. But we want the big fish in the Dow. We want the little fish in the Russell 2000. That's the pond that we're fishing in. And so what are we looking at? We don't trade indexes. We trade stock. At least I do. I want to own winning stocks, leading stocks, stocks that are breaking out. We're seeing quite a few breakouts now in this recent rally since the recent follow-through day. And Merck is one stock in the Dow 30 that's performing well. They reported 14% sales growth. The CEO said it would have been 18, but the currency exchange, a strong dollar, hurt them a little bit. And that's going to happen with these multinational companies. Another stock that I like is AMGN. This is another Dow stock. You can see it broke out and is adding to its gains. They have earnings on November 3rd, which is Thursday of this week coming up. Again, another stock breaking to new highs that's in the Dow. McDonald's is another one that, broke out after earnings on Friday, looking good. So, yeah, breakouts are working. These Dow stocks are strong. I'm not going to shy away from them just because they're in the Dow. Honeywell, another stock that reported earnings and had a positive response. You could see the RS line pointing due north here. So that one looks good. Some of the oil stocks, we're heading into an environment with rising interest rates and a slowing economy. And as the demand wanes, I have, questioned these oil stocks. Now, Chevron reported good earnings and the chart looks great, but this has been a 2.5-year run since the COVID lows. It's going on 3 years. This thing's been running. It is set up here. So I'm very interested to see if institutions are going to buy these oil stocks. Here's Devon. They report, what day do they report? November 1st. And you can see it's set up in a base here. I'm very curious to see how, I know they're going to report good earnings. It's just, how does the institutions respond to these? Are they still going to put their money in these oil and gas stocks? The one area of oil and gas that I like is the pipeline stocks, and they're holding up well. Scorpio Tankers, STNG, just pulled back to its moving average on Friday. And then LNG, it has earnings. Scorpio and LNG have earnings this week. This one's set up in a base. So I'm very interested to see how the institutions respond to these earnings. And of course, Jay Powell. You better have a plan for Jay Powell because you got to manage that risk. The markets rip, you have a plan. If the markets sell off, you have a plan. Anyway, that's enough oil stocks. I was out of oil. I did really well in the spring. Then I was out of them. And then they pulled me back in. So anyway, I'm very eager to get out. It's kind of a late stage play, the commodities. And this is in phase. I'm going to go through solar here. This is forming a nice base. Nice response to earnings. What this thing needs to do is just calm down. It's very hard to trade. You can see that it sold off below its 50 and then has rallied back through it. And I'd just like to see it handle out here around 300, 305. That'd be great. First Solar, their earnings were not so hot. I'm kind of cool on this one. It did trade below its 50, then rallied back above it. Came back down to it on earnings Friday, so we'll see about this one. But ENPH is the leader in that group. I like the biotech stocks, Vertex. This one pulled back on Thursday down to its 50, then had a positive response to earnings, up over 9% on Friday. Very strong earnings, great company, big pipeline. That stock could either be bought out or they could be an acquirer of companies, which they have been. It's about a 80 billion market cap, so it's even bigger than Celgene when Bristol Myers bought them up. SRPT, I have no idea what this stock does, but I like the tight action here within the base here. So they're going to report earnings on the best day of the year, November 2nd. And so I'm going to look forward to how that one responds. CPRX, this one had a positive litigation. They had a positive result from their patent lawsuit. And this thing was, like almost a three bagger here. And now it just traded back below its 50, just kind of forming a base. It'd be great if it just kind of handles out here around 15. And they have earnings coming up on November 9th. Another quality biotech stock. Here's a FibroGen. I'd be faking it if I said I knew what these guys do. I just like the chart here that had a nice base, beautiful pullback, fake out, the shakeout, the fake out, and then the rip, right? Pretty common, just a lot like Vertex there. They pull back and then they rip higher. Is pattern. Here's AMLX. They look like they're getting a bid for a buyout here. Every time this thing pulls back, it gets bought. Somebody's buying these things. You could see the big volume bars here. This is one of the better IPOs. They had an approval for an ALS drug. And ever since the approval, that was this day here, was it September 7th? Yeah, and then on the 8th, it was up 51%, not a bad day. And then it's holding on to its gains. In fact, it's advancing higher. So I believe that that's a possible buyout bid. Gilead, another biotech stock, reported strong earnings. Got to look at the weekly on these. I should be showing you the weekly on all of these, but this is a nice long base. And then gap higher on earnings last week. Looks like a breakout to me. We'll see if it can hold its gains. Anyway, I want to look at the XBI because this, you got to look at the weekly here. It topped in February of 21. It's been in like an 18-month bear market. You can see the capitulation selling here in May, and then it kind of rebounded up to a moving averages. Now it's just kind of forming a base. But if you look at the daily, it's been bumping its head on that 200, downtrending 200 moving averages, just kind of forming a base here. At some point, of course, it's going to trade above it at some point, but it can't be in a bear market forever. But if you're playing the long game, XBI looks pretty good to me. I want to take a look at some of the retail stocks. This is MUSA. Murphy, they have an oil and gas component. They have retail stations with fuel, and they're adjacent to Walmart stores. I've never been to one. They're in 27 states, but you could see they had nice positive response to earnings, breakout out of a base. You look at the longer term, and this thing just grinds higher. You don't have to hold it for very long to be successful. CASY is another one in this group, this retail mini market. You can see the long, deep base here. Not so deep, but a long base. And now finally it's broken out of it last week. So like I said, there's been a lot of breakouts. We're just going to have to see if they hold their gains. Another retail that I like, Wingstop. Once again, take a look at the weekly. You can see this, huge sell-off, deep base, and now it's breaking out on strong earnings last week. Huge acceleration in earnings and sales here. So Wing looks good. Anyway, that's enough for retail. I just want to go through a couple of random growth stocks. This is Shockwave. This one is cut below its 50, traded above it, and kind of idled below it again and rallied past it. And then on what was it, Thursday, it was down 7-8%. And people were freaking out, but that's what this thing does. I mean, look at this thing, down 9% just September 22nd. This date here, down 11% in June. 9% in May. I mean, this is what it does. Here it's 9% in January. So Yeah, it sells off, but if you look at the longer term here, I mean, this thing's been a huge winner. I know it's priced for growth, and they have earnings November 7th, and they better deliver the goods. And if they do, like Intuitive Surgical, this thing's going to go higher. ISRG had a strong response to their earnings report, and then it held gains for a few days, and they reported, I think it was a pretty large stock buyback program, and it trades now above the 200. So Intuitive Surgical looks really strong. Lantheus, this one's been up like 200% in a year, so you got to expect some profit taking in this market. But it formed a double bottom base here, got rejected. It sliced at 50, then got rejected. So it was once support, now acts as resistance, and it's trying to get above this 50 as it forms a base here. But I'm okay with this thing just handling out here between 75 and 80 for a few weeks. Not the end of the world. Here's SMCI, Super Micro. These guys, sliced to 50, and then once again resistance, came back down. Now it's above the 50 and forming this base. They've raised guidance like 3 times since the summer, so their business is booming. CALX is CALX. This one trading nice and tight. This one looks like SRPT. And then it had earnings and gapped higher, and it's holding its gains. So this one, you look at the weekly, yeah, nice base. Look at that tight action for a long time, and then boom, there we go. See you later. CLFD, another one that we had on our watch list at MC stock charts. This one, nice base. And to me, I mean, you might think this is a breakout with all these big, but to me, it's just forming a base here. And if it just handles out around 120, 125, that'd be great. As long as it doesn't get back the gains, that's what you're looking for. Here's DY. I'm just not going to comment on this. This is on our watch list. You can kind of tell why. They've just been forming these bases here. JBL, the same thing. AMN, pretty similar. PFHC, this is an oil and gas stock, field services. So I'm really skeptical on these. But, it's an IPO. It's holding up well, and it's forming a base. They have earnings on November 10th. So I just thought I would highlight that one. Speaking of highlight, Harmonic, HLIT. Anyway, this thing was on our watch list at MC stock charts, and it exploded higher, and it's just, it's extended, yeah, but it's just showing leadership qualities. It's not giving any gains back, and it's 4.8% above its 10 EMA. So look at all the big blue volume bars here. So somebody likes it besides us. AZPN, another one, delivered strong earnings last week and pulled back to the 50. Well, of course, because it's been up like 200%. It had this base here and ripped higher. Now it had this kind of negative reaction to earnings, just pulled back to its 50, down 5%, big deal. And then on Friday had an inside day. But yeah, this one, you got to expect profits to be taken when you're up that much, especially in this market. Dexcom, another one, long time, love me long time. Dexcom, it's been falling on hard times, like everything else, or pretty much everything else in 2022. But it did have positive reaction to earnings on Friday. So we're going to keep my eye on that one. DGII looks like it's flagging a little bit here. They have earnings on November 10th. It's holding its gains and just kind of idling here right underneath the 40 level. So we'll see what happens after earnings. And the last one I'm going to go through is Richardson. This guy's broke out, and they're holding its gains. So we're seeing a lot of breakouts, and we're seeing them hold their gains. But all bets are off if those folks who are counting on the Fed to pivot. Man, they're going to be. I think you're going to be disappointed. But we'll just see how the market reacts to the news. And don't want to jump the gun here, but definitely want to practice risk management. And we always do at mcstockcharts.com, and we never give up. Thank you for watching.